Hello, dear friends. You were not born to learn through suffering, although you can suffer. However, you can also learn and grow through inspiration and joy. Opinion piece. Hippy Revival. We missed the old days. New flowers will sprout. Roots of the hippie trail. The world is changing. When the pressure mounts, make sure you wear flowers in your hair. The magic bus traveled to Kathmandu, waiting for the rebirth of Utopia. Will history repeat itself in a similar way? The world is now on a knife's edge. All divine gifts come with challenges. Let's start. In quotes. If you are going to San Francisco, be sure to wear sunflowers in your hair. If you are going to San Francisco, you are going to meet some gentle people there. For those who come to San Francisco, summertime will be alive there. In the streets of San Francisco, gentle people with flowers in their hair. All across the nation, such a strange vibration, people in motion. There is a whole generation with a new explanation. People in motion, people in motion. These are the lyrics of Scott McKenzie's famous song, which still touches me every time I hear it because I'm nostalgic. This song, entitled San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair, is credited with bringing thousands of young people to San Francisco Golden Gate Park in the Summer of Love in 1967. Mackenzie's version has been called the unofficial anthem of this 60s countercultural movement, including the hippie and flower power movements, along with the Beatles' All You Need Is Love. Flower power. Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint John of the Cross, Rumi, and many other saints became hippies when they became enlightened, but they didn't need to wear flowers in their hair because they have blossomed within themselves. In Spain, there are still hippies in Matavenero, León, in the Alpujarran community of Beneficio in Órgiva, Granada, and on the Balearic island of Formentera. There are also communities in several American countries. I admire and respect all these countries. The hippie ideals of peace and love were mocked from the beginning by mainstream society, politicians, and much of the media. In 1967, the celebrated novelist Hunter Thompson described hippies as, in quotes, very hairy people full of flower power. But the hippies never referred to themselves by name, but as members of an alternative society that is now being reborn. The devil always laughs at beauty, as he laughed at Jesus. In his most autobiographic book, the brilliant Brazilian writer Paulo Coelho narrates the encounter between two young people, Carla, a 20-something from Rotterdam, and Paulo, a young man who dreams of becoming a writer, lets his hair grow long and goes out into the world in search of the freedom to give his life a deeper meaning. Together, they will travel the hippie route on the legendary Magic Bus, a journey through Europe and Asia to Kathmandu. During this unique and transformative experience, they will live a great love story. With them will be passengers from different countries who will experience transformation along the way and embrace new priorities and values for life. The Hippie Trail. The Hippie Trail, also known as the Overland, is the name given to the journey undertaken by members of the hippie subculture and others between the 50s and the 70s from Europe overland to South Asia, mainly India and Nepal. The hippie trail was a form of alternative tourism, and one of the key elements was to travel as cheaply as possible, especially to extend the length of time away from home. At each major stop on the hippie trail, there were hotels, restaurants, and cafes that catered almost exclusively to Westerns, who made connections with each other as they traveled east and west. Hippies tended to spend more time interacting with the local population than traditional tourists. Travel typically began from Western Europe cities, often London, Amsterdam, or Athens. Many Americans traveled by plane to Luxembourg. Most trips passed through Istanbul, where routes were divided. The usual northern route was via Tehran, Herat, Kandahar, Kabul, Peshawar, and Lahore to India. An alternative route was from Turkey via Syria, Jordan and Iraq to Iran and Pakistan. Delhi, Varanasi, Goa, Kathmandu, or Bangkok were the usual destinations. Kathmandu still has a road nicknamed Freak Street, commemorating the many thousands of hippies who passed through. Sometimes they also took the additional route to South India, Kovalam Beach in Trivandrum, Kerala, and some to Sri Lanka, then Ceylon. The most famous Spanish hippie on the beach in Goa, India, was Alejandro Vallejo Nájera. Renaissance. History never repeats itself in exactly the same way, but in a similar way. I'm sure that the new flowers will sprout when the pressure in the system spot increases. It will not be the same movement as in the 60s, but wiser, more evolved, ecological and technological. Few know that the hippie movement was Pleiadian and Lemurian inspired, and that is why it appeared in San Francisco on the shores of the Pacific facing the lost continent. The hippie movement emerged in the 60s as a response to the dominant values of the time and sought to promote peace, equality, and individual freedom. Although the hippie movement had a significant impact on popular culture and society at the time, it has not had the same relevance in recent decades. However, aspects of hippie philosophy and culture, such as a concern for the environment, the pursuit of spirituality, and the focus on emotional and physical well-being, have influenced current cultural trends. It is likely that there will be resurgences of some aspects of the hippie movement in the future, especially in response to cultural and political changes. However, it is difficult to predict whether a full-fledged social movement will emerge that has the same characteristics as the original hippie movement. Paradigm shift. End of Pluto in Capricorn. We have endured for 15 years of the presence of Pluto in Capricorn, which represents plutocracy, the power at the top of the system. It means the disappearance of the wealthy mountain goats and the mountain of power. The financial sweep of the goats that rose on the top is preparing the landscape. What comes with the new cycle from 2023 to 2044, Pluto in Aquarius, conjunct Uranus in Gemini, suggests that we will be using technology we never dreamed of by 2028. When Uranus in Gemini begins from 2026, that would be an internet revolution, and with Neptune in Aries too, you will find yourself with a wardrobe of faces, names, and identities in online spaces with instant access as Aries rules your appearance. Golden Age. The Golden Age is here by Jennifer Crockett. You have changed course. The vortex of the storm has passed. All divine gifts come wrapped in a challenge. Also the Golden Age. The energy of our triumph is here. The darkness has been defeated. You cannot win. They cannot win. You are now too enlightened. Negative forces are defeated. You will feel lightness begin to emerge within you. You will feel a sense of unexpected freedom and fluidity, the gentle emergence of hope and optimism. For decades, people spoke of a pole shift. That shift has happened, but it was not from north to south. It was from a negative polarization to a positive polarization. The time of those who put their greed before human being is over. This dawn is not just the new lunar year, not the new solar year, but it is the dawn of a new golden age. The catching between the spiritual world and the physical world is exceptionally thin, and those of us who have eyes to see will see. Trust in the miracles that will become much more frequent. Trust in your divinity and release that divine spark within you. Magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field is awakening in America continent 10 times faster now. Scientists who conducted the study are not sure why the magnetic field is awakening in the Americas, but one likely reason is that the Earth's magnetic poles are preparing to reverse. Ran Flobergachen said, "The Earth's magnetic field, which protects the planet from huge bursts of solar radiation, has awakened over the past 6 months, according to data collected by a swarm of European Space Agency satellites. The Earth's magnetic field acts like a giant invisible bubble that shields the planet from cosmic radiation swept out by the sun in the form of solar winds. The biggest wake spots in the magnetic field, which stretches 600,000 kilometers over the planet's surface, have emerged in the Western Hemisphere, while the field has strengthened in areas such as the Southern Indian Ocean, according to magnetometers on 3 separate satellites floating in tandem." Economy. Wall Street closes in the green as Deutsche Bank's fall drags Europe into a Black Friday. Deutsche Bank still reeling as Yellen and Powell insist the system is resilient. Panic spreads over Deutsche Bank is being the next Credit Suisse. Deutsche Bank fears could become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The world remains on a knife's edge. After a period of relative calm following the Credit Suisse bailout, the UK's FTSE 100 stock index ended this week in the red, amid another sharp sell-off in bank shares. Europe denies the banking crisis engulfing it. Despite assurances from the governor of the Bank of England and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, among others, about relative strength of the financial system compared to the 2008 collapse, financial markets are far from convinced. A year of rate hikes ends decades of bond market prosperity. Bonds suffered historic losses after the Fed began raising interest rates in March 2022. Small banks lost $120 billion in deposits during the turmoil. About 85% of Generation Zeta members worry they won't be able to pay for a month's expenses if they lose their jobs. Opinions. The world is in a black swan event. Banks are in default, according to Utopia. Billionaire investor Barry Sternlich says Fed rate hikes are like using a steamroller to kill a small fly, and warns the economy is about to hit the wall. Banking study terrifies Wall Street. A week ago, academics specializing in the financial sector published a paper highlighting that there are 186 banks with significant vulnerabilities that could face a situation similar to that of the collapsed Silicon Valley Bank. This would explain part of the heavy losses suffered by some of the banks on Wednesday. Egon von Gregers says the financial system is broken. The strength of the banking system is based on trust. With the fractional banking system, highly leveraged banks only have a fraction of the money available if all depositors ask for their money back. Then, When trust evaporates, depositors realize that the system is just a black hole, and that is about to happen. According to Mark Sira, the BRICS countries are pushing asset-backed currency. There was a meeting with 40 different leaders of African countries, where Russia wrote off 20 billion in loans. They are also talking about what this multipolar world will look like, where assets rule the day instead of debt. The financial world is changing, the fiduciary world is dying, and the movie could be over by 2023. Europe. Germany makes it possible to register cars with combustion engines after 2035. Brussels announces agreement with Germany to lift veto on 2035 ban on combustion engines using synthetic fuels. Spain. 15 aircraft are trying to control the fire between Castellón and Teruel. Madrid asks energy companies to stop importing Russian gas. Order to the Spanish military, no photography of Ukrainian training in Spain. The units have issued instructions to ensure the safety of personnel undergoing training in Zaragoza, Toledo, Almería, Cádiz and Pontevedra. The military channel Ciudadanos de Uniforme, Citizen of Uniform, broadcasts a video against NATO for sending weapons to Ukrainian troops. This anonymous channel has 40,400 followers and usually broadcasts messages, also anonymous, from members of the armed forces who criticize decisions made by their superiors and denounce irregularities in their units. Americas. Ibero-American Summit in Santo Domingo with the aim of obtaining concrete results. Mexico seeks to consolidate its position as one of the world's main tourist destinations. Mexico's Supreme Court suspends electoral reform. Argentina. Parravicini's predictions about Argentina are coming true. Many call him the Argentinian Nostradamus for several of the successes he has had in his premonitory drawings made in the 40s. His international prominence came after his premonition of the 9/11 attack in Manhattan came true. As for Argentina, his native country, Parravicini predicts a happy future, but not without going through a very difficult period first. In 1938, he predicted suffering and death because of communism. In quotes, Argentina must prepare itself to suffer. They will have rulers who will reduce them to a fascist-style communism. Death will run through its streets and roads. Parravicini referred to the Argentine constitution in a rather pessimistic tone. In quotes, on the new Argentine constitution, broken from the previous norms, will rise the highest mountain of evil figures. They will all have to hide their hidden ends behind fake masks. Parravicini prophesied that in South America, Argentina will fight for his freedom, for the freedom of freedoms, the freedom of God, peace. Parravicini prophesied about the suffering Argentine middle class. In quotes, the middle class saves Argentina. Its triumph will be in the world. Parravicini prophesied that Argentina will not be communist, which without being, not knowing it, and being will have no place. It has everything because it has love. This is one of his prophecies regarding this mysterious grey man who seems to be part of a new era. In quotes, the dry tree of Argentina will know an era of new rain. The blessings will come to its soil after serious struggles, of encounters and misunderstandings, of proud cries and defeated cries. These chiefs will arrive and say, they shall not be, but then they shall be in might and truth. They will call the man to do, and he will be. He will be a grey man. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.